Let's take a look at a word problem that requires us to use a bar model to find a fraction of a whole. In this word problem, we have two fractions. So what we'll actually have to end up doing is finding the common denominator of these two fractions in order to solve. So let's take a look at each step along the way to solving this problem. It says that there are 540 animals in a shelter. 1/4 of them are dogs, and 2/5 of the dogs are purebreds. How many purebred dogs are in the shelter? We begin by writing our sentence down on the bottom. There are blank purebred dogs in the shelter. And we know that we're finding a fraction of a whole amount, so we start by drawing the whole bar model. We're told that there are 540 animals in a shelter, so I can go ahead and label my entire bar 540. That's how many animals there are in all. We're also told that 1/4 of them are dogs. So that means 1/4 of the animals in the shelter are dogs. Our denominator here is 4, which tells us the number of parts to break this bar up into. Since 1/4 of them are dogs, I'm going to split it up into 4 equal parts. I know that one of those parts, because 1 is in my numerator, one of those parts will illustrate the number of dogs. So I've colored that in blue. You can shade it in on your paper so that you can see that that 1/4 is the one that we're looking at because that is going to illustrate the number of dogs. Now we're also told that 2/5 of the dogs are purebreds. So I'm taking a look at that 1/4 and I have to split that up now into 5 parts because 2/5 of the dogs are purebreds. The blue part, or the 1/4, is the number of dogs, or illustrates dogs. So I'm only going to split that up into 5 parts at first so that I can see and label 2/5 of the dogs as purebreds. So I split that up into 5 parts. I'm going to label 2/5 as purebreds. And since I want to know the number of purebreds that are in the shelter, I also put a question mark there because that's going to be my final answer. So now looking at this problem, you can see that I have 1/4 of my entire bar broken up into 5 parts, and the others look like larger parts. So we want it to all be the same. So since I split 1/4 up into 5 parts, I want to do that with every other part as well. So what we're really doing is we're splitting it up into the common denominator. 1/4 and 2/5 have a common denominator of 20. So I'm going to go ahead and split up each of those other parts into 5 more. So now I have a total of 20 parts. I did that because I need each part to be the same in order to look at the entire fraction. So now I have 2/20 that illustrate my purebreds. The 2 shows the number of parts of the whole, right, that are purebreds. The 20 is just the total number of parts in my bar model. I can simplify 2/20 to 1/10. Now I want to find what is 1/10 of 540. I want to know how many purebred dogs are there in the shelter. So I write 1/10 of 540, and we know that the word of means times. So I'm going to change of to times, and now I have a problem left to solve where I can get my final answer. 1/10 times 540. 10 and 540 can both be divided by 10, so I can cross cancel here to simplify. I now have a 1 in my denominator and a 54 in my numerator. So the answer is 54. I'm going to write 54 in my answer and cross out my question mark and write 54 in my bar model as well. So there are 54 purebred dogs in the shelter. Taking a look back at this problem, you can see that since we had 1/4 of our total that were dogs and 2/5 of the dogs that were purebreds, we ended up splitting this bar up into 20 parts. 2/20, or 1/10, end up illustrating our purebreds, and 5/20, or 1/4, illustrate the number of dogs that there are in the shelter. Now you can go ahead and work on exercise 14 in your workbook, keeping in mind the process that we use to solve this problem.